This is a Blairing Out with Eric Blair show, and today I'm pleased to have guitarist, vocalist, songwriter, and founding member of the Melvins, Buzz Osborne, on the show. How you doing today, King?
Never better.
What was it like growing up in Montesano, Washington?
It was horrible. It was rural America, not unlike any other rural area. Growing up with a bunch of a dilapidated town that had lost all of its money and jobs and hope, and it couldn't be worse. You know?
And then what possessed you to pursue a career in music?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I always liked music from the time I was a teenager, and it just seemed like a fun thing to do. And I didn't really have any big, dreams of it being huge from the beginning. I mean, really, our only original idea was to just play a show. We surpassed our original ideas pretty quickly. So it's been up, so since you don't have high expectations, and it's easy to be satisfied.
Well, did you have fun in high school? Was not at all.
No, I hated high school.
Because I would think most people that are in rock and roll or punk actually rebelled against the system, and high school was the first place they started rebelling against the system. And that wasn't you?
No, I was rebelling all the time, but I didn't like high school at all. It was horrible. I honestly feel like my history started when I left there,
How did you discover your vocal talent?
Well, that's debatable. I don't know. I mean, just doing it. Kind of, some nights are better than others. I like to think I've gotten better as time has went on, but, it's sort of the reverse entropy thing. I started out crappy and got better.
Yeah, I've heard the older stuff, and I think you just sound good all the way through your career.
Well, thank you. That's very nice. Who pays you to say this?
Nobody. I just, I know good music when I hear it. I know authentic music, and
Yeah.
you are authentic.
Thank you. But I mean, youths having a terrible time when they're growing up, that's nothing new.
Yeah.
That's how it works. I'm no different, But I mean, it's one of these things where I grew up in a tiny town with maybe 40, 50 people in my graduating class, and that was the center of their universe. And I just never was comfortable there, and now I know why. Once you expand out into the world and you see things through a different light, and you realize how small that is compared to everything else that's out there, I wish I'd have known that then.
So how do you make a marriage work in a biz where the lusts of the flesh rule?
You have to make sure that all that comes too late. When you're strong enough to deal with it. I don't know. If I wanted to do have a lot of sport sex, I never would have got married. I like being married. It's great.
So do you believe in monogamy?
Do I? Oh yeah. But honestly, I don't care what anybody else does. But if my wife starts doing stuff like that, I would start faxing pictures of O.J. Simpson over there. If I'm willing to do it, I don't see any reason why I shouldn't expect them to do it. It's a commitment.
Yeah.
That's an odd word in this day and age, but I've been married 21 years, so it's fine with me.
Happily married.
Oh yeah. Well, we're both weirdos. My wife's from Orange County, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
What part?
Newport Beach. Her parents still have the same house she grew up in. Grew up around all the social distortion DI guys and all that stuff. Yeah. She actually did that DI album cover, the first one. The little animal on the cover. Yeah. She designed that.
Wow. Coolness.
And the social distortion skeleton. She did that. And now she does all our stuff and tons of other stuff. And I feel really lucky as far as that's concerned, because she's a creative weirdo and we get along really well in that. And the thing about that you have to realize for me is that I understood pretty quickly that women that were willing to put up with what I do for a living and my eccentric nature, those women don't grow on trees. So if I'm going to make this work, I'm going to have to, I'm not going to find another one of those around the corner. So that's really it. It's boring and old-fashioned, but that's the way it works.
Now, how long were you the bassist for Kurt Cobain's band Fecal Matter, and was it a collaboration?
Oh, we did a couple things. It wasn't really a band. It was more like a noise project. I always liked Kurt, and I always thought he should play music. And a lot of people have said he tried out for our band. That's all bullshit. We all talked and jammed together all the time. There was nothing to join. A show for us, it would be driving to Seattle and playing and maybe making enough so we could each buy a burrito and then drive home. That was it. There's no band. And him being a roadie, look at him. He's a roadie. He could barely lift himself out of bed, you know?
There's a show on YouTube where they actually have kids and they play music videos and talk to them about certain people. Have you seen the kids talk about Kurt Cobain? I mean, these kids are like 11, 12. Every girl was like, he was so handsome. That was like their...
You know, for some reason, women are intrigued with this wounded junkie look. I don't know why. Why is that?
Because they want to... They
can change him?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, look what that got him.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, he got changed, all right. You know, good work. Well, thanks a lot, women, for nothing. You guys couldn't save him, I guess. What does that say for women?
Look,
powerless, stupid. What else?
I don't know why you picked Courtney Love.
He was on heroin.
That's
you make a lot of bad decisions when you're on drugs.
What was it about punk rock that captured your imagination?
Well, I like the rebellious nature of it. I liked heavy metal, and I always liked the rebellious nature of that. Still do. I like the rebellious nature of punk rock, and that it was intriguing to me because it was weird and farther ahead than any other rock music I'd ever heard. You know, it was wonderful in its simplicity. But then there's a lot of bands that I considered punk rock bands like Gang of Four that weren't really simplistic at all. They were very sophisticated musically. So it wasn't all just I mean, there was that, but there was also a whole nother level of that kind of thing that I thought was really great as well. You know, so. It was a multifaceted thing, and I think it still is. And I don't like things that are compartmentalized into this is a tour for this is a tour for that. I hate that. I never wanted to belong to any of those clubs. You know, still don't. I'm really of the belief that I didn't even know I hated this until you told me I should like it. I didn't know I didn't want to do this until you told me I had to. You know.
I think that's the nature. I think that's the nature of rebellion.
I think it is, but I just don't. You know. I don't have a lot of faith in other people making those decisions for me. You know? I've never felt like I could just, I'm going to be a rockabilly band, so I'm going to get all the tattoos, and, it's insane. Why would you want to do something that somebody else has done? Why? I don't get it.
What do you remember about recording your first album, Gluey Porch Treatments, in 1986?
Well, we'd never hardly been in a studio, and we've recorded. The engineer went down to San Francisco, or north of San Francisco, actually, in I can't remember exactly, Sausalito. He was one of the guitar players that had been in Hanoi Rocks before that. Yeah. And he was a recording engineer. And so he really understood how guitars should be recorded and all those kinds of things. That was really the first time I heard what a really well-recorded guitar sounded like, and it was great. I never forgot those lessons. He was a super nice guy, and I think he's since moved back to Europe, but not too long after that. But he was really funny and had a lot of good stories, and had told us he had basically quit that band because of the drugs, And before I think that before the guy died, he was already out, but he was highly talented and understood the dynamics of what a rock band should sound like, and wasn't afraid. And we worked really quickly on that record, and it came out great. For a first experience album-wise, it was a really good thing to do.
How did Dave Grohl befriend you, and in turn, you help him get the gig with Nirvana?
Well, Dave was in a band called Scream, and we were friends with those guys. And then he wasn't the original drummer, but then when he joined Scream, we met him through playing with them, And but we had played with Scream before he was in the band, so we were always fans of that stuff and liked those guys. And then when he became a member, then we became friends. That was when he was penniless, And so then I always thought he was a good drummer. And then I liked the guys in Nirvana, and we were friends as all that stuff was going on. And when it became obvious they needed a new drummer, I lived down in San Francisco and they lived in Washington, and they had come to San Francisco, and we went and saw Scream play. And so they had seen him play. And then when it looked like they were going to need a new drummer, or Scream was done, Dave called me and said that Scream was basically broken up because the drummer, I can't remember exactly what happened, but their bass player after the last gig, or after one of the gigs, had sold all their equipment and bought drugs with it. So they were stuck in L.A. with no one they were from the East Coast with no one to call to get money. And he kind of just called me and said, I don't really have anything going on, So I said, well, maybe you could call these guys. So I called those guys, and they would go, yeah, he was a really good drummer. So that's kind of how it worked.
How would you fix the world if you were president?
What would I do? I couldn't fix anything. I don't know. I'd be a terrible president. You don't want me president. You know? I don't even know. First off, I don't think, the government can fix anything. I think what they should do is stay out of people's lives, and that'd be the best thing you could do. I'd say if I was going to be in charge, which would be insane, that they should close down most of the government. Most of it shouldn't even be here. Why do we need these guys telling us what to do? I don't like that kind of stuff. I think I can handle myself. And as long as you're not hurting anybody else, why should someone regulate every aspect of your life? But having said that, you have to understand that my area of expertise is in music. For me to step outside of that area and comment and make comments on social issues or political issues is crazy. Don't listen to me, because I honestly believe that people should look to higher sources and entertainers for their political beliefs. And whenever I hear people do that, it irritates the fuck out of me, because I can't stand it to hear some rock and roller or pseudo rock and roller talking about how the world should run. It's like, what do you know? You can't even write a good song. You think that I should listen to you about who I should vote for? That's insane. Yeah. And just like I said before, it goes right into this thing. Well, oh, you're into this? Well, then there has to be something wrong with it. Then you can't be right. You've never been right about anything. So whatever you think is obviously the opposite. But I don't make those kinds of comments. Generally I don't go into those kinds of things, because I think it's absurd. And I think it's not my place to do that kind of stuff. If I want to talk to an expert about a carburetor, I'm not going to go to a bakery, Yeah. And I'm not going to go to a bakery or a auto shop and ask them how to bake a cake, It's about the same kind of thing to me.
Well, in the world right now, I just feel like the noose is getting tighter and tighter around our necks.
I guess so. I mean, look, a lot of things, we should worry about a lot of things on a personal level, and try not to focus on something as trivial as politics, because it really is not going to make any difference.
For the Melvins being on an indie label and DIY since 1983, how did you see your life change with the 1993 Atlantic Records deal?
Well, we got some money, but it wasn't a ton of money. It wasn't like retirement money, we were able to live comfortably for a year or two. Well, comfortably for us, But, so that was kind of nice. But, we didn't make more money than anybody who worked a normal job would have. It was pretty, it was, a lot of money for what we were used to, but not a lot of money for what the world is used to, and that's okay. And we didn't think it would really work. So we were really careful with what we did. And I was surprised that they wanted to do 3 albums. I thought they would be done after the first one. So, it was fine. We came out of that in a better position than we were when we went in it. And under those same circumstances, I would sign the same contract. I would do it right now. It was fine. We did whatever we wanted, got 3 records I really liked. No one told us what to do. They was the exact opposite of what a lot of people think. Indie labels, by and large, are a much bigger ripoff than majors,
Really?
They just don't pay you at all. Atlantic's checks didn't bounce, and they did exactly what they said they were going to do. I haven't had that experience with indies. Not usually, There's not 5 in this country that I would even consider, maybe 2, 3 at the most, that would be have enough faith in to actually do what they say they're going to do and pay you, Once you get in a situation where an indie label is paying you what you're owed, you realize how much you were getting burned.
Which songs on Houdini did Kurt Cobain produce? He
produced almost the whole record. He was in a pretty bad way drug-wise, and we ended up having to fire him. So it was unfortunate. It was not that whole time was not a good situation, and I don't have happy memories about any of that. To find the good side of a terrible addiction to drugs and then death is difficult for me to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, and in what fashion did he act as a producer?
What we really wanted from him was somebody to come in, and after we'd done a lot of albums up to that point, and come in and help us with everything, and that was it. Just bounce ideas off of him and things like that. And he was just drugged out. I mean, it was just not going to happen.
You already had like your tones all dialed in and everything.
Well, not really. I mean, we had an engineer, but we really were ready to let somebody else take a look at it all. And once he was gone, then we got this guy, Garth Richardson, came in, and that's exactly what happened. So that was a lot of fun. I mean, it was fun to work with a guy who was like a normal record producer to some degree. But, I'm kind of over that too. After we did a few albums like that, and then now we work with this guy, Toshi Kasai, who's more, I mean, we kind of produce our own. I never wanted to be an engineer. We produce our own records, but, we let him do the, figuring out how to mic everything and all that stuff, and I just trust his vision along those lines.
What is the quality you most like in a woman?
She has to look like a woman. I'm not really into androgyny. No. I like my women to look like women. Is that so wrong?
No, that's awesome. I'm down. Hey, I'm down, man.
I'm more of like, like Raquel Welch, she's like 68.
Yeah.
That's amazing, or, Pam Grier, any age. You're not going to ever, Pam Grier, you would never mistake her for a dude. No. I'm old-fashioned along those lines,
Are you living your lyrics?
I'd have to be able to remember what they were to live them. That's on the other side of my brain,
Is there a message you're trying to get across to people through your lyrics?
Well, it's all communication, but whether you understand it or not, one way or another. I'm not a. I was a big fan of. I am a big fan of Captain Beefheart. I don't know what he was talking about, but it certainly meant a lot to me.
But it is a catharsis for you to write those lyrics. Is it like getting something out that you feel you need to get out?
No, I'm honoring the song. That's what I'm doing. It's not a therapy thing for me.
Okay.
The playing live is sort of like that, but it's a combination of all of it. Not one thing is more important than the other thing. Music comes first, and then lyrics. Lyrics are inspired by the music, generally speaking. I don't just sit down and write things out and then put them to work. Put them to music. I've never done that. Never. So I have to play and then hear I think that's relatively common.
Now, what was the best part of having Mike Dillard back playing drums and Dale Crover switching to bass for the Trace Cabronis album?
Well, Mike had never really been on a real album that he made from the beginning to end, a new one. So that was cool. We've been friends with him I've been friends with him since we were in early high school. So, so that was cool. That was really cool. It was fun to work with a buddy of yours. Have it come out good.
I think his bass playing sounds awesome on that, and the tone is really good.
He's a great bass player. He's a good guitar. He's actually played guitar longer than he's played drums. So, not me. I wish I would have started. I didn't start until I was like 18. So, he's been playing since he was like 10.
Do you, when you get like a new bass player, because I know you guys have gone through a few bass players over the years, when you get a new bass player, were you like, dude, you got to play with this tone? Or do you just let them use their own tone?
No, I've never done that. I've always just let them. I've already liked what they were doing.
Okay.
And so I just let them do their thing. I'm not. I believe that they should play the songs like they are or better them. I'm not married to any of it. The songs are just a suggestion of what can happen. I mean, I don't want to. I'm not the kind of guy that would be like, you're playing it wrong or play through this or play through that. Never, ever. Sometimes they'll go, well, I wasn't sure what this part was, and they'll play it, and they'll go, well, just leave it that way. It's fine. That sounds good. Then they kind of own it more. I like that. They're more comfortable because they feel like it's theirs.
How hands-on were you in the remastering and reissuing process of the Melvins catalog when in 1999 you partnered with Mike Patton's Ipecac Recordings?
Well, we didn't really reissue too much. We did the Glue Portuguese record, but I can't think. Maybe some 1983 demos. Can't think of anything else we reissued. We might have. I might be forgetting something. But we do everything.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a lot of work, though.
They turn it in, or we turn it in, and then they put it out. Cover, everything done.
Yeah.
So We don't have to accept it. Like, they don't have to, you know, they don't have to go, you know, we don't think it's good. I don't have that working relationship with them, you know. They do whatever we want. So.
Yeah, well, Mike Patton's like that. He's that guy.
Yeah, him and Greg Workman. Greg Workman is a guy who does the day-to-day stuff, and we're big fans of him. So we've been there a long time, 14 years.
Mike Patton, Phantomos.
It's Mike's baby, and we do exactly what he wants.
Okay.
No, I don't vary from that at all. Totally opposite of what it is in the Melvins. Totally opposite.
What was it like playing with Dave Lombardo?
Great. Dave's a really good player. You know, he's an eccentric weirdo, but that's what happens when you sell your soul to the devil. When you kiss the goat, you have to use your tongue.
Apparently, he wasn't able to do part of a tour in 05, I think, and you guys got Terry Bozzio. Yeah. What was that like playing with Terry Bozzio? That
was really great. Bozzio's an amazing drummer, and he did a really great job. And, you know, honestly, I wish we could have done a record with him.
Yeah.
That would have been great, but maybe. But I'm not going to hold my breath. Yeah.
Well, he's still alive, so that could happen. What brings you the most peace in your life right now?
Well, you know, there's nothing quite like laying down in bed and realizing that you don't owe the IRS any money. You really only have to worry about the IRS, cholesterol, and the Teamsters Union. If you have all those in a line, you're all right.
Tres Cabrones, you know, we were all three of us were talking in the car about this. I'm not, you know, I never took Spanish in school. Tres Cabrones. Let's get this straight. What does it mean? Does it mean three?
I think, yeah, three dumbasses.
Okay.
So take off on Tres Hombres, three men.
Off that album, what inspired the lyrics for the songs? And I'm going to start off with Dr. Mule.
Oh, man, I don't know. I can't, I don't know.
I was in a punk band for years. I'm so attached to the lyrics. The lyrics are so important to me.
Me too.
But it's a message. I'm trying to give a message to people, and you may be just having more fun with your lyrics.
Maybe. I mean, it's there's enough message bands out there, you know. I'd prefer to have people have their own experience with it.
What is your secret to not becoming a casualty to sex, drugs, and rock and roll?
Don't do any of them. No. Everybody has their moments. Luck. Maybe the powers that be have put a good umbrella over me. How about that?
What were the highlights of the Melvins' collaboration with former Dead Kennedys lead singer and songwriter Jello Biafra?
Well, we did Alice Cooper cover with him, Halo of Flies. That was a lot of fun because he's a huge Alice Cooper fan. So that was probably the highlight. You know?
But both of those albums rocked.
That was a lot of fun. Maybe we'll do another one at some point. But he's got his own band now, and you know, he says that we kind of kick-started him into playing music again. So that was good.
Why do you think it was time to do an acoustic solo album? This machine kills artists.
Well, you know, I've done a lot of stuff in the past, and I'm not really afraid of a challenge. And no real reason other than that. And I mean, the Melvins is pretty much my baby. I write the vast majority of material, so it's not like I needed to do a solo record. But you know, it was you know, another challenge, I guess. That's about it. I mean, you know, I have to go out and sell this thing, you know, and it's not, you know, to get people to come out and see some guy playing acoustic guitar. That's a tall order, you know. What's tonight, Thursday? How many people are going to want to come out and see a guy play an acoustic guitar on Thursday? I got to ram this down people's throats. I got to make them like it. That's my job. Hopefully, this will make me stronger in every other area, you know. So that's kind of the goal. People will come out on a Thursday night to see Buzz Osborne play acoustic guitar because you're a living legend. Well, we'll see, you know. I mean, I don't take anything for granted. Okay. Nothing, you know. Yeah, I know. I've seen your quote about the rich should even work harder. The rich rock stars should work even harder than the poor rocks. I believe it. Yeah. I believe that, yeah. You know, you've been given this gift. Sometimes it's total luck. And don't take it for granted. Don't, you know, I mean, you have the ability to do a lot of work. Why shouldn't you do it? Fame. How important is fame to you? It's part of the deal, you know, okay. But I don't particularly care about it. It's hard enough looking like a weirdo. So. Well, I don't think you look like a weirdo. You know? I mean, it doesn't really help you. You know, but the problem with that kind of thing is, though, that if if you don't like the attention, then stay out of the limelight. You know, there's lots of ways you can do things without, you know, going to the Grammy party or going to the, you know, I mean, Jesus, it's not hard to hide out. Howard Hughes did it for a long time. You know? I don't like that kind of stuff. I don't want to go to a party, you know. I have no interest. I don't like those kinds of people. I don't want to go to a bar. I don't like the people that go to bars. I never have, you know. So I'm here to work. If I'm not working, I'm not coming here.
Now, I know you're married, so you're very fortunate in that fact that you found somebody that loves you and that you can spend the rest of your life with, who isn't a climber and isn't forcing you to go to these parties and things like that.
I wouldn't have it. She doesn't want to do that anyway, so thank God. That's not us, you know. It's not hard to avoid that kind of bullshit. It's pretty easy, actually, you know. But those people like that kind of stuff. So if that's what you want and that's what you go and get, you can't bitch about it. You know, I mean, you asked for it.
What does the number 666 and the inverted cross symbolize to you?
Well, you know, in order to buy into that stuff, you have to be a Christian to begin with. You know, I think that kind of stuff's funny. That's about it. I don't believe any of that stuff.
Do you believe in a higher power? Do you believe there's a God?
Well, you know, I don't want to be wrong or right about anything. You know, I mean, the problem with atheists to me is that they're too right. Mm-hmm. I always want to go, how do you know? Mm-hmm. I would say the same thing about any religion. I'm not really super excited about organized religion or any of those kinds of things. I mean, whatever. People want to do that, that's fine with me. As long as they're not bothering anybody else, or that's where they cross the line. You know, to me, I don't want to hear it. I don't care. Well, but sure, I mean, I believe in something, I guess, but whatever it is, it's not going to be what we think it is. That's good enough.
Were you raised a Catholic or a Christian?
My parents never went to church.
Really?
Yeah. I never set foot in a church with them. They never shit-talked it. They just didn't go. I think my dad had grown up Baptist. My mom had been Catholic. And they had done it when they were kids and just had no interest. So we never went to church. We never talked about church. But they never said it was bad. They just didn't care.
Were your parents supportive of you?
They had their own problems, you know. I mean, you know, it was a lot of money. I mean, it was married young. They had their hands full, so they did the best they could.
You're like one of the hardest working men in music.
Thank you.
What pushes you? What initially pushed you as a child to want to fight this world to do what you've done?
I don't know. Fear. I have a really distinct fear of being broke. That's a motivator.
Yeah, that is.
Once I got to a point where about 88, 89, when I could barely scratch out a living playing music, I realized that what I wanted to do, the reason I was able to do that is because I wasn't trying to write music that I thought other people would like intentionally. What I was doing was making music that I liked, figuring that I had good taste, therefore other people will like what I'm doing. Not millions, but enough. And I haven't changed that attitude. You know, I mean, I don't have any ideas that I'll ever sell millions of records, and I've known that all along. I mean, I'm not part of that world. That's okay. And until I can't make it work, I don't see any reason why I should screw it up. You know? So then I have to, as long as I approach it with the idea that I want to do something that I like, that honestly like, and with the idea that I have good taste, therefore other people will like it. As long as I just pursue it like that, it'll work. You know? It won't be millions, it won't millions of people. We always say the same thing, millions of people won't buy our new album.
That's a good one.
You know, there's probably 0.01% of the population of the world cares about what we do. Maybe, you know? And that's okay. You know? I'm not going to argue with it. It is what it is, and you play the hand you're dealt. And that's okay. I'm not a complainer. I'm not I wish that this would happen. Be careful what you wish for. Cobain wanted to be a rock star. He's dead. Who wins? I win. He's dead. I wouldn't trade places with him. Why would I want his misery? You know? No thanks. And I've been around enough people that have a lot of money to know that, you know, the statement that anyone who says that money can buy happiness has never been rich. You know? You know, I'm a happy motherfucker. You know, I'm not, but have very simple tastes and have dumbed it down to a pretty minimal level. So, and I'm no dummy. That's for sure. I'm good with that. If I can, lay at home after a day's work and lay in the bed with my wife and my dogs and watch a movie, I'm not going to get any happier than that. I don't have anything to worry about. Owing money, going to jail, just any other trouble you might be in. If you don't have those kinds of problems, what else do you want? Cars, I don't care about any of that. I love to drive, but I just don't care about that kind of stuff. It's okay. I mean, I appreciate other people that care about those sorts of things, but it's just not. I know that that's not the kind of thing that's going to make me feel one way or another. You can do that, and you want to do that, great. But I just don't care about it.
Buzz, what are fans saying to you on this tour?
The ones that I talk to, I don't see too many of them once in a while. They're very appreciative, and I think they like it more than they thought they would. But, by and large, most people that are, less than hammered are pretty nice,
Recently, there was a video of you from April talking about Dave Grohl.
Yeah.
And about how he used to be your friend. And, I mean, is that serious?
Well, I honestly have no idea what a guy like that thinks or does on a daily basis. I'm not part of his life. I was at one point, I'm not anymore. That's hard to deal with, But, oh well. I mean, if that kind of thing happened, maybe I wouldn't like it. So there's always that. I have to be happy regardless of any of that. And I am, I just thought it was a funny story. It was a funny story.
It's a funny story, but I mean, I've had friends that have become big rock stars, and even though we're still friends, I don't really hear from them that much anymore. Occasionally I'll call them, and I just come to realize, I'm busy, they're busy, there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, the thing I think people they misunderstood was it was a self-deprecating story. I was talking about how I blew it. When he finally did reach out, I was too busy to, that was my fault. So people go, how could you say this shit about Dave? Well, actually, no, I was saying stuff about me. That's what they misinterpreted. Weirdly, because I thought I was pretty clear about what exactly was going on there. But, oh well.
How do you feel about the title, The Godfathers of Grunge?
Well, the Godfathers always get knocked off, so I don't like it. I'm waiting to get whacked.
What is your greatest extravagance?
I don't know, collecting toys. They have to be weird toys, and they have to be, relatively expensive.
Then what would you say is your favorite toy that you have?
The Great Garloo. It's a toy from the early 60s. That's my favorite.
Who made that?
Mark's.
Okay.
Mark's Toy Company. They're hard to find. They're real. I have a few of them, but they're, people want a lot of money for them, and, I'm more of a bargain shopper when it comes to that kind of stuff. But, that thing's 50 years old, They're tough to find.
What's the origination of that character?
He looks like the Jolly Green Giant. He's a robot. Control it.
Okay.
I've never had one that worked, but, I suppose I could find it would be a lot of money. Kids destroy stuff like that, so there's not a lot of them that survive. So I have pieces and parts of them. But I have a couple that are complete, and those are my favorite toys.
If you believe there's a hell, would Hitler be rotting there?
Yeah. He seems like he did he did enough to warrant that. Yeah. I would guess. Yeah. Okay. But you have to believe in that sort of, I don't know, hell, I believe in hell on earth. How about that?
What is the best part of being Buzz Osborne?
I get to be my own boss, do whatever I want. That's the best part. Not take any orders.
Ronnie James Dio.
Rainbow Black Sabbath.
Were you a fan of that version of Black Sabbath?
If I was going to listen to one of those records right now, it would be Heaven and Hell.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
That's a great record, man. And the bass playing on there is just incredible.
Yeah, he saved them, I think.
Yeah,
I didn't like the two records before that.
Never Say Die and Technical Ecstasy. There's a song called Johnny Blade on there that's really good. On Never Say Die, that's a great song. What's next for Buzz Osborne?
I'm going to do this tour, and then we have a new Melvins album coming out in the fall. So it's almost done. So they'll master it while I'm gone. It comes out right in early October. So just
Who's going to be playing on this Melvins record?
me and Dale, but I can't really go into the details yet of exactly what the story is going to be. I'm gonna leave it in the bag a little bit longer. Yeah. So, but people are going to think it's cool.
Are you doing a tour bus thing with this, or are you doing the van?
Driving. Yeah.
Are you driving the car?
I love to drive. Yeah. I drive all the time. Yeah.
I would think that would be a little stressful.
No, I like to drive.
Really?
I like it. I'm more stressed when someone else is driving. You know, when I'm in control, I like it. I'm a very careful and fun driver. You know, I don't want to have. It's not a road race for me. You know, I like driving. The act of driving is very relaxing for me. Unless I get involved with stupid drivers, but I don't do the road rage thing. But I can go, come on, idiot. You know, I want people to just follow the directions. And if I get upset, then I start driving like I'm taking my driver's test. And then calm right down.
Favorite car?
Oh man, I don't know. Maybe the Mustang from Bullitt. That's a good one. I've never driven one, but it's a cool car.
So have you ever put pedal to the metal?
No, I'm not that kind of a driver. No, I don't care about racing or I don't care about any of that sort of thing. I mean, I don't care about driving some Ferrari or anything. I mean, I can be driving any car. I just like to drive. Cool. Driving is fun.
Buzz Osborne, thank you for being on the Blairing Out with Eric Blair show. You rock.
Right.
This is the Blairing Out with Eric Blair show with Buzz Osborne of the Melvins signing off.
The Blairing Out show.